This summer was the third hottest ever, but as many experts warn and predict, also the coldest for the rest of our lives. How can cities react? What adaptation strategies can they implement? This will be the topic of our next panel, titled Liveable, Innovative and Climate Neutral. How do cities respond to a changing climate? The panel is organized in partnership with the Heinrich Böll Foundation, and the participants will be Attila Varga, Habil, Associate Professor, Eötvös Loránd University, Diána Kupper, Green Finance Expert, Global Green Growth Institute, Hungary, and Kraus, co-leader, the Green Party Vienna, City Councillor and member of the State Government, Vienna. The moderator for this panel is Adela Jurečková, Director of the Heinrich-Böll-Stiftung in Prague.
So good morning again. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our panel with the title Liveable, Innovative and Climate Neutral. How do cities respond to a changing climate? My name is Adela Jurečková. I'm the director of the Heinrich Böll Foundation Prague office, and I'm happy to guide you through today's discussion with our distinguished panelists. As we know, the connection between cities and climate change is particularly strong. According to the IPCC, over 70% of the global CO2 emission come from urban areas or are generated in urban areas. But it's also cities where people feel the effects of climate change very strongly. For example, if we think about heat waves. So this means that cities are key to finding the right solutions. And that is what we will discuss with our experienced and knowledgeable panelists today. I'm looking forward to an inspiring discussion about smartly designed, people-centered and effective policies. Before we start, let me introduce our panelists to you briefly. I am pleased to welcome Diána Kupper, Green Finance Expert at the Global Green Growth Institute. Diána brings extensive experience in climate action, energy transition and sustainable investment. At the Global Green Growth Institute, she leads work on climate finance and supports European initiatives that help citizens advance low-carbon, inclusive development. With a background spanning public and private sector advisory, corporate strategy and economic analysis, Diána offers a well-rounded perspective on how finance can drive sustainability. Welcome, Diána. yeah, you can clap. Please join me in welcoming also Professor Attila Varga, who joins us from the Faculty of Education and Psychology at the Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest. He is a researcher at the Sustainability and Psychology Research Group, where he works on psychological dimensions of environmental behavior. And he deals with emotions like climate anxiety and ecological grief and the role of education in shaping sustainable attitudes. Professor Varga brings a crucial perspective on how emotions, values and human psychology influence the response to the climate crisis. We are happy to have you here. And last but not least, joining us today is Kraus, co-chair of the Green Party in Vienna, where he also is a city councillor, playing a key role in shaping the city's climate policy. He has been a strong advocate for sustainable urban development, climate protection zones, and the transformation of Vienna's energy and housing sectors towards carbon neutrality. He also works at the intersection of climate justice and social policy, advocating for inclusive and equitable approaches to sustainability. Welcome and thank you for coming to Budapest to join our panel. Now, before I take the chance to ask our guests individual questions, I would like to have a really quick round to get already into some concrete examples how cities can act in regard to climate change. And my question to all three of you is, can you name one bold action that your or another city has taken to fight climate change or to help its citizens to better adapt to it? And we may start with Diána.
Thank you again for that question. A bold project or task, wow. There are many good examples. So I think I'm going to start from Budapest, since Budapest is hosting us today. The city has introduced the Healthy Streets methodology, which aims to make streets more livable, sustainable, and more collaborative. So as Karácsony Gergely mentioned, feeling at home on the streets of Budapest, not thinking about homeless people, but everyone. So this is a really nice initiative that tries to enhance public urban planning and design of public spaces. The city made European funds available for districts to upscale, to develop their streets according to this Healthy Streets methodology, promoting sustainability and participatory planning. So it's a nice initiative. Winners were announced recently, so stay tuned for the developed streets all around Budapest. Thanks.
Thank you. We may dig a bit deeper into it later. Maybe we can go on with Attila, please.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank the endurance of the audience to be here after more than 2 hours discussion. So it's a very honoring feeling to be here. And as a good example, I'm living in Göd, which is a nearby city here in Budapest. The Hungarian participants maybe know. And just in the middle of this city, there is a big, we could call it a park, which was beforehand it was a golf course, and it was bought by the local government, and now it is now turning into a public park, and there is some participatory process to plan how can we use it and how can we preserve it as not just a public place, but also as a place for biodiversity and nature conservation. And I think so. It's quite a good initiative because it is almost as big as the Central Park in New York, but Göd is much more little than. And it is in the middle of the city, and so it could be turned into housing units and so on, but now it's a public property and it is saved for the public good. So I think so it's a good example from Göd.
Thank you. And now to Peter. I'm hoping for an example from Vienna.
I was long thinking, but I think I have to go with an example from Vienna. Can I just maybe have a show of hands who has been to Vienna and who knows what I'm talking about? Quick show of hands. Okay, a lot of you. So you might know maybe Naschmarkt, because a lot of visitors go to Naschmarkt. If you've been there in the past, you might have noticed there's a big parking space, or there was a big parking space next to it within the city center. Hundreds of cars, thousands of square meters. Right now it's being turned into a park. Into a green area, into an urban green area. It's opening this Friday. So when you come back, you see one of the bold actions we take in Vienna to transform the city to a more sustainable place. And may I add, I was also thinking about talking about Paris, because what they are doing is very bold. I just wanted to add that.
Maybe we will have a chance later, but yeah, you're right. And now, since we've heard about some highlights that are truly remarkable, I would like to also dig a bit into the barriers that cities are facing if they want to take action connected to climate change. And I would like to use our collective intelligence in the room and ask actually the audience, what do you think? And I'll ask you the question, give you 4 options, and then you can vote in the good old-fashioned way by raising your hand. So first I'll just read it to you. The question is, which of the following do you think is the biggest barrier to effective climate action in cities? And first, it could be lack of political will or leadership. Second, insufficient funding and investment. Third, public resistance and lack of awareness. Or fourth, complex governance and coordinating issues. So now it's your turn. Who thinks that it's the lack of political will or leadership? Please may raise her or his hand. Okay, thank you. who thinks that the biggest barrier to effective climate action of cities is insufficient funding and investment? Okay, also a few hands. The third option, public resistance and lack of awareness. Raise your hands now. And the fourth, complex governance and coordination issues. Okay, I think we had many people not participating, but yeah, so the public opinion, I think, is in this room quite evenly spread among the three options, maybe with a little preference for public resistance and lack of awareness, but we will, I think, get to all four later. So thank you very much for participating, and let's see if this corresponds with the experience of our speakers. I would like to go back to the example of Vienna and start with that. The city has published Climate Guide 2040, and therefore I would like to ask Peter Kraus, what makes you optimistic that Vienna can achieve climate neutrality by 2040, and what are the biggest bottlenecks you're facing on this journey?
What makes me, let's start with the optimistic. What makes me optimistic? I think Vienna, like many great cities, have faced challenges in history that have been huge, and cities, in my opinion, are in all those big transformational times never the problem but always the solution. So I think cities can be, especially in the phase of transforming our society, transforming our economy, transforming our energy systems, and everything that is connected with climate and sustainability, can be the place for innovation and for change and for just transition. Vienna has laid out a plan how to become climate neutral by 2040. In accordance with the Austrian goal of becoming also climate neutral by 2040 and reaching 100% renewable energy by 2030 already. I think it's very important to always mention and say why we want to do this. It's not because we are very into physics. Physics is great, but it's not because we are so invested in everything that's going on there. We are doing this in order to improve the quality of life of people living in Vienna and to safeguard the quality of life in our city towards future crises. We know that climate change is real, and you can feel it every day. You can feel it in heat waves in summer, you can feel it in floodings, you can feel it when there is strong weather conditions. So people feel in their everyday lives that climate change is here. And I think especially local authorities, local politics has an obligation to make changes that change the everyday life of its citizens. So the roadmap to climate neutrality 2040 not only addresses these numbers and the figures and the CO2 emission equivalents, which are very technical terms, they are important, but we also address how we want to reach these goals, how we want to make a change in neighborhoods, how we want to change our transportation system, how we want to change our energy system. And I think it's very important because politics and also the public sphere needs to provide reliability in this transmission so that people know what is going to happen in future and can have a positive vision about what's in it for everyone. Obstacles, of course, there are many. It's finance. It's a great amount of gas that is in our energy system, and I'm talking about the climate side of this, but I'm also talking about how we are geopolitical things are interfering with this. Just one number. There are over 450,000 gas boilers right now in Vienna. How to get rid of 450,000 decentralized gas boilers in private homes within 15 years, that's quite a challenge. I don't have the answer how we do that, but I know we want to do that. So there are a lot of big challenges, I would say, but I think the job of politicians or of authorities is to have a clear target and to also explain why we want to reach this goal and how we take it step by step.
Thank you. Attila, I've seen you nodding as Peter was speaking, so I would like to go next with you and stay with a very important factor that is citizens, the people living in cities, and ask you about what does psychological research reveal about the connections between the psychological well-being of citizens and the climate friendliness of cities. For example, when we think about urban greening or walkability or some of the things that Peter has mentioned.
Thank you very much. Oh, it's okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. So I was nodding because as Peter started his speech is what absolutely what psychologists said, that if you would like to have a good program and a good development and would like to reach your goals, it's very important to combine your goals with other goals of people. Because the main psychological barrier of environmental education and sustainability is that we have contradicting goals. That as individuals, our main goal is not to live sustainable, more or less, or there are just some very green activists who has this main goal in their life, but we would like to have a good life, we would like to have good health, we would like to have good traffic, and so on. And that's why, as our data shows, this is the main psychological barriers. It was also for me was a kind of a surprise that not the lacking of knowledge or not the of the social resistance or something like that, but this very fact that we are human beings with other goals than sustainability. And actually it goes back that all this sustainability and all these environmental issues is actually an unintended consequences of our life and our technology. And that's why if we would like to persuade people to change their life into a more sustainable way, is the best way to combine with other goals and to develop, for instance, a mobility strategy which is comfortable, which is affordable, and by the way, is green. So maybe I dare to say that the best sustainable strategy, if you don't have any sustainable strategy, but if you have very good mobility strategy, housing strategy, energy strategy, and so on. And all of these strategies are, by the way, very green. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been also mentioning financing as one important obstacle. Also, many of you voted for that option. So I would like to turn to Diána and yeah, as we all know, cities are dealing with budgetary constraints. You are working with cities as an advisor, especially about this financing issue. So I would like to ask you, what smart strategies can cities use to finance climate mitigation and adaptation measures under condition of limited capacities and also competing budget priorities that we often face?
Thanks, very complex questions, so I will try to go one by one. Yes, indeed, municipalities have very strong budget constraints, especially for sustainability, conservation issues. As we probably all know, cities need to carry out mandatory tasks. So the majority or almost all of their budget goes to these mandatory tasks, social, public services, and so on, infrastructure, development and operation. But on the bright side, there are many options, mechanisms, and solutions cities can take to raise funds, mobilize finance for their climate action, and also non-financial solutions. So starting with the financial solutions, obviously every one of us here knows about European funds. The centralization of European budget is not very great for cities, but hopefully it will go down and be distributed to cities at national level. but definitely cities need to lobby more for direct cohesion funding. There are also different European programs they can apply for and funding, Horizon, Interreg, and so on. So grant funds are all there, and climate and international funding, all that cities can tap into. Beyond traditional funds, cities can also tap into innovative financing solutions. These are green bonds, Paris. We'll probably come back to Paris a couple of times during this discussion. Green bonds issued by Paris raised financing for climate action, climate measures, mitigation and adaptation measures. Also, there are various public-private partnerships that helps raise funds and different methods and solutions to mobilize private finance through cities. In addition to innovative solutions and non-traditional solutions, cities can also turn to non-financial incentives to mobilize action. So you don't really mobilize finance, but you change behaviors and make sure that private actors behave more sustainably, develop projects more sustainably. In addition to that, we have touched upon integration. So the integration of sustainability in other planning, budgetary planning, urban development also raises finance for climate action. So integrating mitigation, adaptation, and conservation measures into, as Attila said correctly, into other actions cities can take, then we don't need a budget for sustainability, but we need to integrate sustainability into other budgets.
Thank you. Could you maybe give us a concrete example of that? Like if I was a mayor and I would turn to you for advice, okay, is there any low-hanging fruit, any measure that I can take right away, even if I have quite a low budget that I can mobilize?
That's a good question, and probably I wouldn't say hard no, but it's not always easy. Of course, there are all these funds available for cities, so that is the first thing cities can turn to, European funds and other grants and concessional funding, so EIB loans and so on. So these are, I would say, kind of low-hanging fruits cities can take. Also mobilizing citizens in action, participatory budget or donations and various engagement with the private sector, not just communities, but also private corporations could be an action to take, but that's not as easy. Cities need to build capacities, expertise, and build these partnerships if they are not there yet. But this is a way to start.
Thank you very much. So let's go back to the Vienna example, Peter, and ask you about how do you balance the question of costs, even though Vienna might have a bit more resources than many cities in the Central and Eastern European region, but also the public acceptance of measures and especially the social dimension of the transformation, because I think it is very connected also to the question of acceptance and also to financial restraints on the side of the households and of the individual people.
Big question. Maybe let me start by telling a story about acceptance and about how just this transition is. I remember a few years ago, during summer, I was on my way to the supermarket and I met my neighbor, a very old lady. She was back then in her early 80s or something, and I met her in the elevator and I said, oh, I'm going to the supermarket, and she said, yeah, she's going too. And I said, can I carry your bags home maybe, because it was very hot, it was something like 37, 38 degrees. And she said, no, she's not going there for shopping, she's going there because it's cold there. And that's the only space she finds right now where she can cool down for a few minutes. Why am I telling this story? Because I think we need to understand that sometimes this constructed contradiction between social justice and social issues on the one side and climate protection and climate adaptation and its costs on the other side they are constructed. That's not a contradiction. It's the same question, and they are deeply, deeply linked. So we know this in numbers. We know these studies of the cost of inactions. We know the consequences when we do nothing, when we don't invest in adaptation. Who will feel it the most? Who will feel the consequences of the climate crisis the most? It's those with low incomes. Those with high incomes, they will always have the money to have air conditioning in their flats, to have cars that are air conditioned, to move around in this world not feeling anything of the consequences. So I think that's the first point I want to make. Climate action is social policy in its very core. Second, yes, I think city budgets, also the city budget in Vienna, are constrained right now. There's not a lot of money. But I truly believe that investments in infrastructure need to be looked at differently, especially in urban infrastructure, because it decides on the quality of life of generations, what we do now. For example, changing our energy system, changing our heating system in cities. That's nothing we do for a year. That's something we do for generations. And I strongly advise everyone to think of this as a transformational investment for generations and not something that should be looked at in the short term or in the term of a 1 or 2 year budget. In my experience, I want to touch on acceptance. In my experience, it is the other way around. I have so many talks with people in Vienna and in other cities who are asking, why isn't change happening in my neighborhood? Why is there still a gas boiler? Why is there still not a tree in my street? Why is there still not a safe way to go to school with my children on bike? I think this is the real issue. I think we have maybe 15, 20 years ago, we have these political confrontations about acceptance of, you know, they take away my parking space. This is a debate from 20 years ago, and I think we should somehow move forward. Of course, participation is important. Of course, you know, having democratic instruments in all this transformation, but we need to have clear goals and political leadership, because we need economic and political reliability in this change, because I think these two really contribute to acceptance of this transformation.
Thank you. You've mentioned this concrete example, a story of this lady, and I would like to ask Attila again. How would you say, as a psychologist, people do react to negative effects, negative experiences with weather extremes or the changing climate, such as heat waves, but it can be also extreme rainfalls or other ones, and how, like, what effect does it have again to the acceptance of climate adaptation or mitigation measures taken by municipalities?
Okay, so it's again quite a complex question, but yes. So I could have differentiated in 2 levels. So one is the very concrete consequences of heat waves and big storms and so on. So there are these very imminent consequences, which actually makes people feel less safe and so on. But on the other hand, there was a kind of turning point around 2090 when actually the notion of climate anxiety or eco-anxiety appeared in the field of psychology. I'm sure, as an environmental educator, that some people felt this way before, but as Peter mentioned, that these events are more and more frequent. It turned out around 2090 that it could be called as a general general feeling of people, and especially younger people are feeling eco-anxiety and climate anxiety more than other people. But what is interesting from an environmentalist point of view, and also from a psychologist point of view, that what is the link between eco-anxiety or climate anxiety and environmental behaviors? Because if these feelings makes people more environmental, that it is a good thing from an environmental point of view. But as a psychologist, I couldn't say that, hey, let's make people more worry about the climate change, because actually one of the main aim of mental health is to provide people that kind of life where these negative emotions could be treated in some way. And this contradiction actually started a very deep discussion even within psychology, because we have to find a very specific way when we can deal with these eco-emotions in a way which don't stop the motivating factor of this way. So because there are many coping mechanisms to deal with eco-anxiety or climate anxiety, we can just avoid these themes. We can go to have a good relaxation and so on, and don't bother with these things. And this could decrease our anxiety. And sometimes we absolutely need, when even myself, when I'm overwhelmed with this climate news, then I just shut up my laptop and so on, and go for a relaxing work and so on. So this should be one kind of the solution and coping. But on the other hand, our data said that if we use just this kind of coping mechanism, that doesn't lead to environmental action. But if we, and this is where city could have a role, but if we offer people solutions and doable actions, and programs which they can join and can make a real difference in their own life, as Peter mentioned, in that way, it's absolutely clear that climate or eco-anxiety could turn into environmental action and pro-environmental behaviors. So I think this is the responsibility of educators, of parents, and of policymakers to make climate action as affordable or as reachable for people as it possible. So to localize climate actions and to distribute it, and don't think just in very big European projects, and don't think just top-down initiatives, but absolutely try to engage people in as many ways as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, that's, I think, the key word, engaging people, engaging all stakeholders, make them participate in climate action and in decisions. So how does Vienna go about this? Peter?
Yes, Vienna.
Or you can speak about Paris, if you like, or another city.
The question of participation, Vienna is doing a lot here. For the last years, there's been a program, it's still ongoing, it's called the Climate Teams, where each district in Vienna gets a budget, a participatory budget, and citizens can then together decide on the use of this budget for climate adaptation measures, for sustainability measures. There has also been for a very long time, under the umbrella of the Agenda 21, bottom-up subsidies. For example, if businesses or if private people want to build a parklet in front of their building, it's subsidized for the cost of the material, so that people can easily change the surrounding of their neighborhood. I think this is really important. I just want to add one thought to this, because I think we shouldn't make the mistake of mixing very important participation and democracy. That's not the same thing. We need participation, but at the same time, we need very strong institutions. We talked a lot of this earlier or in the opening remarks today. We need strong institutions on a local level, maybe even on a neighborhood level, in order to strengthen democratic resilience when it comes to climate change, but also when it comes to all the other crises that we face today. I just want to add this because I think participation is very, very important. And it enables people, it gives them a feeling of being a change in their own lives. But at the same time, at the same time, I think we need to invest in institutions, we need to invest on the local level, on the neighborhood level, and I deeply believe that when we look where can we build resilience, also resilience towards the effects of the climate crisis that is happening and that is happening in the future, the neighborhood level is very important because people can relate to each other, people can get to know each other. Think of my neighbor. When people talk with each other, they can help each other. And I think this is where we build resilience, and this is where we need to invest. And maybe that's not big money, but maybe it's little funding that makes a big change.
Thank you. We might come back to the issue of resilience later, but you mentioned also the institutions. And this brings me to the issue of governance and coordination that we also had as an option in our poll, that it can be a burden to climate action. And I think it were the least votes that we had for this, so which makes me think we might not have maybe so many people dealing with public administration in the room. But yeah, this is a question that I would like to give to Diána. You have a lot of experience with these issues dealing with different cities. And climate measures are, as we already heard, definitely a cross-cutting issue. So how do you think municipalities can ensure efficient coordination across various governance levels?
Thanks, very relevant question. First, we have to look at municipalities themselves. There are internal governance issues, so to say. Many times we see departments working in silos. So first we need to get these departments talking. Collaboration between climate and other expertise, sectoral department is key. Also finance and budget department is also very important to include them in any urban planning project implementation. Also cities need to include a department on participatory planning and participation. They need to be everywhere. In every project to make these climate, well, not just climate projects, any urban development projects inclusive and include citizens in planning and implementation. So first we need to look at the institutional level. The second is actually involving the citizens. So, and districts in larger cities, also main municipalities need to collaborate with neighborhood or district level municipalities. So already we go a level below. And then include citizens through them or through NGOs and community leaders. Moreover, it's very important to collaborate with the national government. As we've seen in the case in Vienna, national climate plans are key, and the city is also following and implementing national climate action and plans. So it's very important to collaborate with the national government and EU level institutions. Of course, there is huge barriers there. Sometimes there are political differences when the city is in opposition, as in few cases in Europe, as in Budapest. These things need to be overcome. Climate must be put ahead of political differences, and these are longer-term issues than political cycles or budget cycles. So collaboration need to be made, and partnerships at expertise levels between climate ministries and municipal climate departments. Yeah, these are the barriers, or these are the barriers that need to be overcome. But if the municipality takes the effort and opens up these partnerships and venues to discuss with national government and European institutions, then I do believe these governance obstacles could be overcome, and they must be overcome.
Thank you. I would like to go back to the issue of resilience, but then looking at the time, I think then we will have a little round of questions from the audience, or maybe one or two. But yeah, to the topic of resilience, I think it's also very interesting to dig deeper into it, since also I think about a project that we've supported at the Heinrich Böll Foundation, when it was about reframing adaptation as an issue that is just not just technical, but also deals a lot with people, as we talked about before, and with resilience. And so the question would be how to build resilience on the local level among citizens. You mentioned already a few things, but maybe even a bit more concrete. And maybe Attila could add something to it, like what it means building resilience actually from the psychological point of view. You may start if you want, and yeah.
Okay, so I think so. From a psychological point of view, especially here in Hungary, the resilience is mainly about making connections between people. Because lonely people and people without social resources are much more vulnerable. And my other point is that these connections should be, as Diána mentioned, should be crossed the political trenches. So because we will reach sustainability if we could work together for it. And as one of my acquaintances said, there is no left-wing and right-wing climate, or left-wing or right-wing water quality and so on. So we should go to other neighbors, if even in the case if he or she is belonging to the opposite party, and we should work together for the environmental goals. And actually, this is again a win-win situation, because if we connect each other and working for the environment, it's good for the environment, but also is absolutely good for ourselves, because it makes us much more happier and a much more content life if we don't have enemies in our streets, but we have buddies who can help us if we are in need.
I was thinking, because I think this issue of resilience is so big, but I want to answer it maybe in 3 points. First, I already mentioned the neighborhood level. I really think that this is where resilience as a society is strengthened. So investing on the neighborhood level and supporting neighborhood initiatives and bringing infrastructure to neighborhoods is very important, first. Second, I think resilience in our infrastructure systems, being it energy or public transportation or, I don't know, kindergartens. So resilience in everyday life infrastructure is very important, because it gives safety, and we talked earlier about feeling home and belonging somewhere and feeling safe where you are. I think this is also very important, to have resilience in these systems that somehow guide our life. And the third thing I was thinking about right now, I think there's the big new issue coming up. Maybe it's not new for us, but in the broader political debate, and this is the resilience of resources. We need to start talking about the resource conservation and which resources are available economically, but also on a private level, and how we can make our local economies more resilient towards everything that is happening in the world, talking about global conflicts, but also talking about climate issues and resource issues. There will be resources that won't be here anymore in 5 to 10 years, and our society needs to be prepared for that. So maybe that's 3 ideas or 3 theses where I think we need to look at when we want to have a society and a city that is more resilient.
Thank you for your replies. And now I would like to give the audience the opportunity to ask. Maybe we can collect 2 questions, quick ones. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question? It does not. Yeah, over there in the back. I'm not sure if. Maybe try to speak loudly. I'm not sure if we have a microphone in the room.
Thank you. I'm Ludmila from the Bulgarian embassy, and actually, first of all, I want to thank you for the very interesting and important discussion. It's not a question, but a little comment, if you allow me to go back to the voting that we had in the beginning. I think there was no wrong answer, but personally, I voted for the first option, which was lack of political will and leadership, because I believe that all 3 options are linked to this one, because it's the role of the political leaders to find and provide funding to raise the awareness among the society and to ensure the smoothness of the whole process. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Maybe before I let our panelists react to it, I'll ask if there is another quick question or intervention. Okay, it doesn't seem to be the case, so would you like to? Oh, there is, in the front row.
Thank you. Yes, I think in the last panel we also spoke about security issues, and I wonder, since a long time actually, since the Iraq War actually, and even before, if we shouldn't link this more, because we have no problem in spending billions of dollars and euros for rearmament, which I think unfortunately seems to be necessary, thinking about what's happened in Poland and Romania, maybe who knows what's next. But at the same time, we're still spending a lot of money to buy Russian oil and gas. And this is linked since a long time. I noticed discussion, the Aspen Institute, and so on and so on. We've been discussing this for a long, long time. And here we sit, and it's still the same old story. What you said, like in Vienna, we're still burning gas for heating up our water and heating our homes, etc., etc. And everybody's wondering, I mean, we have a climate crisis and we have a security crisis. And this is the kind of the golden opportunity to solve both, in a sense. And why are we here sitting in 2025? With an issue that's clear since at least, let's say, 2003.
Yeah, very relevant issue. So, who wants to react to the first or second comment, question? Diána.
I will start reacting to the second question due to it's easier to memorize it. It's a very difficult question. So these energy systems that we see in place, they've been built over decades, hundreds of years. So imagine that all our infrastructures are decades old, and all our ways of using energy and producing energy stems back to years. So it requires huge amounts of capital to shift away from these infrastructures. Luckily, we have other options. So renewable energy and decentralized energy also saves the climate or helps us with the mitigation action and increases energy sovereignty and security of European countries. So we do have renewable energy, obviously, and the good news is that solar PV prices are dropping. They are almost competitive and even surpassed traditional and conventional energy prices. Gas is a huge problem. We use it for heating. We need to electrify our households. We need to electrify our factories. Energy-intensive industries use a lot of fossil fuels. Innovation and technology needs to be part of the solution. So through innovating, first of all, we need to change our machinery, the way we produce electricity and use electricity within factories, within households. So we need to electrify, if you think household level, we need to change gas boilers into electric boilers. We need to install solar PVs and so on. For existing gas and fuels, of course, there are biofuels available, but they are at highly restrictive costs. So they might not be an option for the future, but they might be a short-term solution to our problems to use biofuel. We need to make sure that we are not using agricultural products that can be used for food production. Moreover, there is an issue of lobby. So energy companies and fossil fuel companies have a huge force in EU and the US. As I can say, drill baby drill sounds very cool and sexy in the US now, unfortunately. We need to overcome this discourse and we need to shift away and put increasing pressure on these fossil fuel companies to decarbonize and innovate. Obviously, that means that they need to shift profits away from drilling, baby drilling. So this is the energy question. It needs concerted action from the national government and EU as well to support shifting away, transitioning away from these fossil fuel technologies, and huge amount of funds, both for governments and both households. They need to finance their own energy retrofits and electrification, and they need to buy electric cars. And then, once we shift away and into electrification, we need to upgrade our grids, which also costs a lot. So all these systemic problems need systemic solutions, and we need to look at the infrastructures, policies, and strategies in place to shift away. But we are on the way. We need to lobby more and focus more, both on household and national level. Do you want to add anything?
Thank you. Maybe, yeah, to this or to the question of leadership then, but like you have something to the same question to the first one. Okay, so you and then Peter.
So just a very quick remarks on the first one. Actually, if I remember well, I voted for the fourth option, the complexity of the options, and it was because I think that all these options are absolutely interlinked, and I just would like to emphasize that if we say that politicians are the main issues or the bottleneck, then we should ask that why politicians are thinking in that way, and as far as I know how the politics works, it's because of the voters. Because if voters would like to have more sustainability in their life, I think so. Even the populists will provide them more sustainability. So it's a kind of a circle. So if politicians start to change the voters' mind by education and so on, then it will come back. But why they started to change the mind? So somewhere we should start, and everybody could start where he or she sits, and don't blame others about sustainability, but look for the opportunity what we have in our own position.
Thank you, and now to you, Peter.
Thank you. Yes, I voted for the first, also like you did with your comment. Funny as a politician, right, to vote for a lack of leadership in politics. But I want to add, because this is my opportunity to talk about Paris. I want to add that we need to talk about the successful stories. We can have a lot of discussion about why politicians are in office for 25 years and are not bold enough to take action. But we also have the examples where it works and where it works on the polling day. Because Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, I'm sure you know a lot of stories she did. People are now swimming in the Seine again. These are very big changes, because when you live in a city and suddenly you can go into the river and swim again, that's a big change in your life. That's a big, big change in your life. And we all know it. And everyone can tell this story, and it's a good story, and it's a story about being bold and taking measures and going on voting day and being voted for again, because she's very politically successful, or has been very politically successful. So just to add to your question or remark, I think we need to encourage those who are already bold doesn't have to be the mayor of Paris, also small mayors in small cities, in Austria, who decide to not tear down the city hall, but maybe refurbish it and have an old building renovated. That's little changes, but they are bold stories, and I also think we need to tell these bold stories because they work.
Thank you. And unfortunately, I think we can't continue this great discussion. I would love to do that, but we have to be strict with the time. So I would just say today's discussion has made it clear that it takes a lot to take bold climate action, leadership, as we heard now. But there are also many obstacles to overcome, but there are many chances to it, and there is the necessity to act, because people in the cities can feel the effects of climate change very strongly. Plus, as we said at the beginning, cities are major polluters, so they need to find solutions there where it happens. Thank you very much for sharing your valuable insights, the good practice examples, also concrete ones that hopefully very inspiring to you to listen to. And yeah, I hope that you will have a nice rest of the day, and that we will meet again and discuss cities and climate change, but also in other issues with you. Thank you. Goodbye.